Hey guys, I'm back again. So I decided to take a vacation and I wondered what place would be relaxing for someone that suffers from addictive personality. I was excited to land in Las Vegas and I couldn't wait to get started on the R&R. After 3 days of relaxing at the casino, I quickly realized that not only had I spent my entire life savings, but I was also $50,000 in debt to some guy named Vinny the Knife.
Why don't you give me half the money you were gonna bet? Then we'll go out back, I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
On the fourth day of my vacation, Vinny and his friends decided to pay me a visit. They were very nice guys and definitely understanding of my situation. The meeting only became contentious when I explained to the Knife that I had no money. They decided to put me on a payment plan that if I didn't have the money in 48 hours, I would start losing limbs. So out of desperation, I decided to see if a bank would give me a loan. Apparently my application was denied, and the bank decided that it might be better if I spent some time to think about my options going forward. Well, with a lot of time to kill according to the judge, my mind began to drift, and naturally I thought of the movies. I wondered where else has there been a story about someone that was so desperate that they continued to make poor decisions. And then it dawned on me. The Notebook from 2004 was a story about a man named Noah that was so desperate to be with a girl named Allie that he practically ruins his life in pursuit of this toxic relationship. This movie attempts to frame their poor choices by insinuating everything was done out of love. But as I sit here in my quiet room, I'm starting to realize that The Notebook is not about love. Instead, the movie is about an evil woman that is willing to ruin the lives of her doting suitors just for her own satisfaction. Quite simply, Allie is evil. Want to know more? Well, let's dive on into the sinister plot of The Notebook. The movie begins with introducing James Gardner to us playing an elderly guy named Duke. We quickly realize that Duke is in an old fart's home, and he wants to read a story to some old broad. The old hag is initially a little confused, but Duke presses on with the story talking about a guy named Noah meeting a chick named Allie on June 6, 1940. Noah, played by Ryan Gosling, yeah, every woman now just knows him as the guy that played Ken in the Barbie movie. Well, he approaches Allie, played by Rachel McAdams, pretty aggressively.
Let's have sex!
Allie blows off the Ken doll guy as she's been trailed by at least like 3 other dudes. Ken, undeterred by Allie's rejection, stalks Allie onto a Ferris wheel, where he begs for Allie to go out with him. Allie still turns Ken down, and then Ken threatens to commit suicide by falling off the Ferris wheel.
I hope he falls and breaks his neck.
Allie, not wanting to be accomplice to a crime, relents and agrees to go out with Ken. However, Ken pushes his luck and asks Allie to give him head right then and there, and Allie considers the offer, but she needs to see his cock first, which, by the laughs, as you can see, I think Ken may have a baby dick.
I got a little dick, it's pathetic.
Next, we flash ahead a day or two, and Ken notices Allie walking down the street. He approaches her again for that date, but Allie recalls Ken's micropenis and turns him down.
Needle dick! Needle dick!
Well, in an effort to get Ken a date with Allie, Ken's friends set up Allie to meet Ken at a movie. Awkwardly, Allie and Ken watch the 1940 movie Little Abner by Al Cap, which is an adaptation of a comic series back in the day, and you know what? I don't really care. Let's just keep going. So after the movie, Ken manages to convince Allie to go for a walk, and being genuine, Ken asks Allie more about herself, to which Allie starts complaining how hard her life is, and I am just like,
What the fuck is wrong with you?
why is it every single goddamn time you ask a rich bitch about her life that she has to whine about how difficult her situation always is? Oh man, come the f on. This is 1940. Technically, the Great Depression isn't over yet, and people across the United States were losing their jobs, their homes, and waiting in lines for hours just to get some bread, and you're bitching that you have to learn Latin? I swear Allie's just like Rose from Titanic. I'm rich, therefore I'm oppressed. Oh, cry me a f***ing river, you annoying c***. Well, Ken then tries to throw Allie in front of a car, and I guess this gives her a thrill, and now she's interested in Ken. The next few scenes show them hanging out and how Allie, I think, wants to have sex in public, but we cut back and forth to the old farts, and the old lady thinks public shagging is a kink.
Weird stuff. Butt stuff.
When we finally go back to Ken and Allie hanging out on a beach, but what we also see is Allie starting to become toxic. She's getting more argumentative, and the abuse begins. At first, it's just some shoving, but then things escalate to hitting. Ken, being a nice idiot, just takes the assault in stride because Allie is quick to make up with it with Roadhead. It gets so insane that Allie's father literally catches her blowing Ken right in front of her parents' house. I mean, check out the balls on this chick. But I think her father was impressed by her head game that he offered to have Ken come visit for dinner. It's almost exactly like when Jack got invited to dine with the rich assholes on the Titanic. It's kind of funny that Allie's mother has the same look as Rose's mother too. Rich people just fucking suck. But of course, Allie's mother hates Ken, probably because she hasn't had her guts rearranged in a long time. So rather than go back to Ken's house after the party, Ken takes Allie to an abandoned house for an intimate evening.
Big spender.
Things start to get a little hot, and it's time for the old pokey, and well, Ken's lack of manhood comes back to bite him in a big way. Ken is doing his best to try and lay some pipe, but when you're hung like a thumbtack, things might get awkward, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, you mean Bobby's got a baby dick too?
Allie, who can't feel a thing, just starts flapping her lips, talking about random retarded things, which I'm sure does so much for Ken's performance. Allie even asks Ken if he cares that he's not pleasing her, and Ken's response is,
"Shut up, bitch!"
Ken's friend Finn breaks up the pillow talk and saves Allie from another 30 seconds of disappointment. It turns out that their 2.5-minute makeout session was 2 minutes too long for Allie's parents. The couple returns to Allie's house only to see her dad called the cops because she was running a few minutes late.
Boy, is he strict.
Allie's mom, the same chick played by the warden in Death Race, tells Allie that Ken's micropenis will never satisfy her and that she needs to tell him to go. Allie, upset by this, yells at her mom that she's never satisfied by her own husband's baby dick, so why can't I also be unsatisfied? Ken has heard enough about cock size, decides he's done, and begins to leave, only to be stopped by Allie, who insists that it's not about the size of the hammer, it's the nail you throw it at. Ken, who you can tell is upset, finally fires back at Allie that if she wasn't so loose that maybe it would feel better.
They called me a slut with a huge gaping vagina.
The two go back and forth, but Ken's comment about Allie being a prime candidate for fisting really hits home, and Allie, of course, defaults into her abusive state, and Ken just takes it like a little bitch. She slaps and pushes Ken, basically telling him that they're breaking up and that she now hates him. My favorite part is after she's done pushing and hitting Ken, Allie then proceeds to apologize, telling Ken, no, he big man and he give me more sucky.
Me love you long time, me so horny to you.
Ken, obviously freaked out by this crazy bipolar, drives away. We then cut to Duke and the old broad talking about the story, and the old lady is quite apologetic, but she does insist that size definitely matters.
Oh yeah, make sure to like and subscribe.
This way I can continue to bring more of this horrible content.
I sure as hell will.
The next morning after Ken and Allie fight, her warden mom tells Allie that they're heading home, to which Allie then storms off. Afterwards, Allie takes her bike to go see Ken to tell him that she's leaving, but when she gets to the lumberyard, she's greeted by Ken's friend Finn, who proceeds to tell her that her relationship with Ken is over. I have mixed feelings on this. On one hand, you appreciate the friend defending you, but on the other, f*** off! I don't need some mix sticking up for me in front of a chick. Piss off with that. Allie responds saying that she loves Ken's needle dick and wants Finn to pass it on in the message. Allie then departs and Ken shows up a few minutes later. Finn informs Ken that Allie is leaving and Ken immediately steals a truck from his work to head over to Allie's house. Upon arriving at Allie's house, he attempts to ram the front gate with the truck, and just like the night before, he can't get penetration.
You didn't get penetration even with the elephant gun.
Ken then decides to write Allie. He tells her he's still in love with her and to give him another chance. The son of a bitch was so desperate that he wrote a letter each day to Allie for an entire year. However, Allie never wrote back. Why? Because the bitch warden mother intercepted all the letters. The thing that strikes me as a little odd is that while Ken is writing all these letters, why didn't Allie just write one too? She was the one bawling in front of Finn, professing her love to Ken. So why not try writing a letter? I mean, this is a two-way street, and Allie was the one acting nuts, so maybe try? Or how about you check the mail once in a while? Ken wrote 365 goddamn letters, and every one was intercepted by the warden. Not once did you think to check the mail, especially after you told Finn that you wanted Ken to write. Me, I'm too old, but I remember growing up as a kid, saving up cereal box tops and sending off for some stupid toy that I made sure and checked the mail every damn day. But not Allie. She's like, guess he was busy taking a shit. Whatever. So after a year, Ken and Finn decide to move to New York, where their skills working in lumber somehow translates to working on steel skyscrapers. But that's when they hear FDR's declaration of war on Japan. The guys sign up and spend the next couple of years chasing that bad guy with a funny mustache. They're in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge when the Krauts kill Finn.
Thank God.
Allie, on the other hand, is like in her third year of college, which also begs the question that if Allie was going to college the entire time, then she had a different address, one that the warden mother couldn't police, yet she never made any attempts to contact Ken.
She's a vicious, life-sucking bitch from which there is no escape.
Seriously, she could have easily written a letter just to see if anyone would respond, but nope, out of sight, out of mind. So Allie decides to moonlight as a nurse's assistant because she can't pick up dudes the normal way. Well, sure enough, Cyclops from X-Men is being cared for in the hospital, and he takes a fancy to Allie. Okay, stop here. They're obviously giving the impression that Cyclops got injured during the war. Well, why the fuck is he stateside? The dude is in a full body cast, meaning the injuries are pretty severe, and you're telling me that they would transport his ass in that condition on a transatlantic ship versus stabilizing him in France or Britain? Give me a fucking break. Knowing Cyclops, he probably blew himself up while jerking off next to some mortar shells.
An unfortunate training exercise.
Well, Cyclops recovers and he finds Allie to thank her for giving the handy while he was in the hospital, and the two hit it off. Cyclops is apparently highly educated and loaded.
That makes you attractive!
Yeah! Things go so well that Ward Mom approves, and he proposes to Allie right in front of Discount Cab Calloway. Allie agrees, but the Duke's voice chimes in that Allie keeps thinking of Ken whenever she gives Cyclops fellatio. Next up, Ken returns home from war, only to find out that his dad sold their family home so that Ken could buy that rundown piece of shit house where Allie mocked his small dick. What? Is Ken suffering from PTSD or something? Why the f would you buy a house where your best memory is having some bitch laughed in your face when you were trying to give her the goods? Man, Allie really f***ed up Ken here. No wonder he ended up simping for Barbie so much. It winds up being so bad that when Ken was heading to get his building permit for rebuilding his shag house, he sees Allie on the street and the cuck can't handle himself and jumps off a moving bus to chase her. However, he gets a nice kick in the balls when he finds Allie mugging down Cyclops. To deal with his simp drama, Ken takes it out by working on restoring the shag house and drinking heavily, which I approve. Ken does such a good job that he's featured in the paper for exceptional mediocrity. My favorite part is that during all this time, Allie is living rent-free in Ken's head. It's so bad that Ken tries to distract himself by hate-f***ing a woman widowed during the war.
I'm so proud.
Well, Allie, on the other hand, is trying on wedding dresses when her ward mom shows her the paper and how the governor is planning on attending her wedding. They then flip the page and see a picture of Ken in front of the shag house, all fixed up. The picture of the house immediately makes Allie wet, and she dives on in to give Ken head, not quite realizing in enough time to stop the motion, and she ends up hitting the ground, knocking herself out cold. We later see Allie in the tub rubbing one out to the newspaper picture when she gets an idea.
So you want to sow your royal oats?
Allie goes to Cyclops' office and proceeds to tell him that she needs some time to sort something out. Cyclops, being the nice guy, tells her to do what she needs to do, but at the same time is concerned that something weird is going on. But because he's a nice guy, we all know where he'll finish. The good news is that Allie, being the fine, upstanding woman that would never disrespect her fiancé, goes to visit Ken at the shag house. And she doesn't immediately sleep with him. She would never do that. In fact, she's such an amazing person, she waits until the next day to f*** Ken. The worst part is that Cyclops obviously knows that something is up and keeps trying to reach Allie at her hotel. But she doesn't even give a crap. The bitch is so f***ing eager to have her guts rearranged that she basically tells Cyclops to sit down and shut up like a little cuck. Well, it's during this time that we are jumping back and forth between Allie and Ken and Duke and the old brain rot lady, and the movie finally connects the dots that Duke is actually Ken and brain fog lady is Allie. We see that they did indeed have a family with grandkids and everything.
Yeah, we got uniforms and everything. It's really great.
And Ken is basically reading their story because Allie is obviously suffering from some pretty advanced Alzheimer's disease. However, what's a little weird is that Allie is in an old fart's home for some type of memory care, and the Duke just decided to move in with her. I don't get it. The cost for two people in full-time care has to be absolutely insane. Rather than spend that kind of money to be in that facility, you probably could afford to have someone at your house full-time. Wouldn't you rather do that so you can at least be around your stuff that's familiar to you versus some sterile facility with people that don't like you and take 24 hours just to wipe the shit off your ass? The Duke is such a poor simp that follows his noodle-brained wife into a facility that will most likely shorten his life tremendously. What the actual fuck? But getting back to young Allie and Ken, they start shagging, and I shit you not, Ken blows his load in like 30 seconds. And of course, Allie laughs. Seriously, people, this annoying bitch cheats on her fiance with some fling from 7 years ago that cannot perform sexually and then proceeds to fucking laugh when the guy nuts at her? This bitch is really fucking weird, folks. Who in the hell would put a bright future in jeopardy like this? You're engaged to a dude that loves you and will provide for you and your every wants and needs, and you decide to go bang a dude that pumps and dumps in 30 seconds? Well, maybe there's hope for me.
So now I'm a tramp.
Yes, you are, but I guess we could keep going. Well, Allie keeps shagging Ken for a few days when the warden mom decides to pay her a visit. Allie bitches to her mom about the letters, to which Allie's mother takes Allie down to some sort of rock quarry. It's here where the mom points out some middle-aged dude shoveling coal and says that she was once madly in love with this chump and how she dreams of what it might have been. Oh man, come the f on again! Are you nuts? Please someone explain this chick logic. Warden Mom doesn't want Allie to be with Ken because Ken just works in a lumberyard. So Warden Mom hides all the letters from Ken, and when she's finally confronted about the letters, she hems and haws that she wished that she was with some other middle-aged dude shoveling coal and not her husband, who by all accounts seems to love and provide her with a life with so much comfort that she never needs to worry about money. And on top of it, she occasionally comes down to a rock quarry to gawk at the poor schlub and dream of banging him. Fuck you, lady. No wonder Allie is crazy. You got this stupid bitch nut mother warden spinning her mind around like a damn lunatic that Allie was bound to end up autistic too. However, I will admit I really love the mom's face. You can practically see her old dried out vag suddenly starting to get wet. Allie's face almost looks horrified. Kind of like when you watch a movie with your parents and a sex scene comes on. Anyways, Allie gets dropped off at Ken's house and her mother proceeds to give her all the letters that Ken wrote, and Allie quickly realizes that most of the letters were spam and she starts to give Ken shit about it. Ken says let's talk about it over dinner, and of course Allie can't pick the restaurant, so she drives off all mad about having to go to the grocery store. Allie's in the middle of preparing a mental shopping list and nearly crashes her car into an oncoming truck. She pulls over and starts looking through the coupons that Ken had sent her, and we cut to old Ken and brain fog Allie. Old Ken has prepared a candlelight dinner for mush-mind Allie, and the old bat keeps asking old Ken about the story. We quickly cut back to Allie breaking the news to Cyclops. As predicted, he's pretty pissed, but at the same time, he actually weighs in on being a cuck so Allie can shag dudes behind his back. What the f***, man? Cyclops is actually lucky that he caught this cheating whore before he married her, and he's actually considering a polyamorous relationship? Are there any real men in this movie? I think the title to this fucking movie's incomplete. It should be The Notebook for Cucks and Simps. Screw you, Cyclops. I like that Jean Grey turns her ass into shredded lettuce in the third X-Men movie. Well, Cyclops decides he'd rather be with East German men and leaves Allie. Allie then returns to Noah to start her new life of shame and disappointment, and we cut back to the old farts eating their Salisbury steak when Alzheimer Allie realizes the story old Ken has been telling her about all day is about her and Ken. Pickle Brain Allie asks old Ken how long has it been, and Ken says, a little while, then tells her it will probably only last a few minutes before she forgets again. Wait, hold on a second. You mean to tell me that every fucking day old Ken has to wake up and retell this fucking story to dull-headed Allie and then put together a fancy fucking meal on top of it just to maybe have 5 minutes with her? Man, get the fuck out of here with that. Look, I have nothing but sympathy for people going through this horrible degenerative disease. But you gotta be kidding me that just because Allie is suffering, that old Ken basically throws away the rest of his life, spending each and every day simping for Allie just to hopefully get 5 fucking minutes? What about your kids? What about your grandkids? You know, they would love to have just a little bit more time with Grandpa, but not this simp. The best part about all this is that Soup Brain Allie returns in like 3 minutes and pushes old Ken off of her and screams for help. The orderlies come in and restrain geriatric Allie, and old Ken has to watch the love of his life forget who he is, and obviously he's devastated. I mean, who the hell would put themselves through this on a daily basis? Being patient, reading the same story over and over, then preparing a special meal to hopefully trigger a memory for literally seconds, only to be crushed when their eyes go blank and look at you like a stranger. I can even get behind doing a few days per week because she is the love of your life, but Jesus, every fucking day?
You count me out.
Let's just finish this. Well, old Allie's fit made old simp Ken have a heart attack. He recovers only to snuggle with his bagel brain wife, and finally she's had enough and gives the old simp permission to die, and that's it. They all die in misery. The end. What a depressing fucking movie. A story about a cheating whore that strings along 2 simps only to make one of the simps suffer an entire life of groveling for affection to the point of making him enter a skilled nursing facility just so that every day he can read a story you wrote for him in an attempt to make him simp even more. I don't know what's worse, Allie or that fat bitch from Titanic. At least Rose had the mind to properly kill Jack. Allie enjoyed making Ken simp for her so much that she wrote instructions for him when her brain turned to Play-Doh. Fuck you, Allie. You deserve to die.
And I hope they burn in hell.
Hey, thanks for watching. Remember, this is just satire, but I know some of you will still get butthurt, but I don't care. So if you like what you saw, remember to hit that thumbs up, and if you didn't like it,
Kiss my ass. Kiss his ass. Kiss your ass. Happy Hanukkah.